Mr. Chairman, Mr. Koskinen, in your opening statement, you said that you had instructed people in writing to preserve their records. Could you please provide this committee and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee a copy of those emails?
Copy of the email. Sure, we'd be delighted. I think my statement said that we instructed those. I did not personally send an email.
You didn't? Okay, we'll go back and look at the record. If there are any emails asking people to preserve those documents, we'd like to see those because we don't think we have them.
We'd be happy to provide those.
Do you stand by all of your previous congressional testimony?
I've noted that if I knew then what I know now, I would have testified in a different way.
What in your previous congressional testimony needs to be clarified or altered or updated?
Well, I tried to make that clear. Clearly, at the time I testified, I was advised that, in fact, all the evidence was being preserved pursuant to the orders that went out. Since then, it's been clear that obviously some tapes were erased, which was a mistake. I said that at the time. If I were testifying again, I would say...
Part of the problem that we have is that you've never clarified your testimony. This is the first time we've ever heard you say mistake. This is the first time that you said that you provided essentially false testimony. That's the way I read it. When you said on June 20th of 2014, quote, since the start of this investigation, every email has been preserved, nothing has been lost, nothing has been destroyed, end quote. Was that a mistake or was it false?
That was an honest statement on the basis of what I knew. As Congressman Gowdy said, I would have been better advised if I had said on the basis of what I've been told and I understand.
But you told us in a hearing on July 23rd, you told Mr. Jordan that you learned in April that these emails were missing.
You have to understand there are two sets of emails. The emails that I knew were missing in April of 2014 were from the Lois Lerner hard drive crash. No one knew until 2015 about the erasure of the tapes in Martinsburg. When I testified in June, our whole focus, because none of us, the committee nor I, knew about the erasures.
Why are you testifying that since the start of the investigation, nothing has been lost, nothing has been destroyed?
At the time I testified, that hearing was about the Lois Lerner hard drive crash, so it was clear Lois Lerner's hard drive had crashed.
But you also testified a couple weeks later that you knew in April there was a problem. In fact, Kate Duvall, your senior person, knew in February, but you said you personally knew in April, and yet you came before Congress and you gave these definitive statements.
Well, if you look at the timing of it, you had the report from us on the entire production system and the Lois Lerner hard drive crash.
But what you said was false. Was it true or false what you said?
It was true as far as I knew, and when I testified...
But in April, you said you knew in April that there were missing emails.
Yes, and I filed a report with the Congress.
How can you simultaneously say that you know there are missing emails in April, and in June you say, since the start of this investigation, every email has been preserved?
Because Lois Lerner's emails were lost in 2011, long before the investigation started, and that hearing was about the Lois Lerner hard drive crash.
Let me ask you another quote. True or false? We confirmed that the backup tapes from 2011 no longer existed because they had been recycled pursuant to the IRS normal policy. On July 23rd, you said, quote, confirmed means that somebody went back and looked and made sure that, in fact, any backup tapes that had been recycled. Is that true or false?
That was true in my belief at the time. Congressman Gowdy.
Who went back and looked?
I was told that the IT department
Told by who?
I was told by people, and you interviewed
Who are these
all of
people?
those people. Who are those people?
Yes.
It was the Deputy Chief Information Officer whom you've interviewed who said to me that they had looked and they were confident that, in fact, I asked, is there any way to get tapes? He said they've all been recycled.
But nobody went back and looked. In fact, Mr. Camus, who's the head of, who was the deputy there at the Treasury Inspector General, said the best we can determine through this investigation, they simply didn't look for those emails. So for the over 1,000 emails that we found on the backup tapes, we found them because we looked for them, end quote. How is it that you spend $20 million, 250 full-time people, and you never looked for them, according to the Inspector General? And you testify that you went back, in fact, and confirmed. That is false.
That's what I was told at the time. That was my understanding at the time. As I've said, if I knew then what I know now...
And when did you inform Congress that this your view now, when did you tell Congress that
When
you were wrong on this?
When the IG reported in 2015, I subsequently had a hearing with the Senate Finance Committee about this, and I testified. In fact, I publicly stated in response to the public issues that it was a mistake for those tapes to be erased, and I testified with the Finance
You
Committee.
know it was a mistake, but they were erased after a duly issued subpoena. That's where we have a fundamental problem. You issue 66,000 summons and email and subpoenas each year. You know how to dish it out, but you don't know how to take it. And so we issue a subpoena, we expect you to comply with it. And when you destroy documents that are under subpoena, somebody's got to be held accountable for that.
The IG spent,
And that starts with you. You provided false testimony to this committee, you've provided false testimony to the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and you should be held accountable for that. I got about 30 minutes more questions, Mr. Chairman, but I will yield back.